What if we told you that Americans have become rather tepid, lukewarm, if you will, when it comes to Hollywood and going to the movies? Well, it might not be any kind of big surprise, but what if we told you we know the stats behind it now? We can quantify exactly how few are willing to go see the silver screen in 2026. Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen joins us with the polling results, and we're happy to bring it to you right now. It's a fancy day, folks. It's a free day every time we free your mind by bringing you the truth with a capital T. As we dive in, as we so often do, to explaining Hollywood, or should we say Hollyweird, click the like button, drop a comment down below, let us know your thoughts, and let's get it on, folks. We've got Mark Mitchell here. He's been asking questions based on some of the ideas we had for what we'd like to know for you in terms of the attendance of movies, Hollywood, streaming, and more. AI, for sure. We'll talk about it all right now. All right, folks, welcome to the stage. Mark Mitchell, happy to have you from Rasmussen. Head pollster he is. Mark, how you be?
Yeah, great to be here. Sorry, complicated business. Well, we have multiple Twitter accounts, and I don't have access to the one's DMs right now because of two-factor authentication. Whatever.
Well, whatever. We got it to you. I didn't realize that the method usually used by Jonas, who, by the way, folks, will be back on Thursday, and Vash is going to be back tomorrow. So very excited about all that. But Mark, you have been looking into the exodus of Americans from Hollywood and interest in movies and streaming and all that. And you were very kind to allow us to pick your mind and to find out what the minds of Americans look like these days when it comes to this sort of thing. Walk us through what your discoveries have been in terms of how are Americans judging Hollywood, and is it a red versus blue, or is it sort of unanimous, everybody walking away from the theatrical experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird. Every time we do this, we find something new that is stunning. Like some of the questions that you've worked with us in the past, we found that Disney was polling like basically like a politician, had a lower favorability rating than Trump did, which was kind of wild. And actually the young people like the new Star Wars better than the old Star Wars. That was kind of strange as well. And that people think that modern movies aren't as good as older movies. These are all some of the things that we've looked at. And this one was kind of, I mean, I could throw it up. I don't know if all your crew wants to see a whole bunch of spreadsheet numbers, but we wanted to know how often do people go out and watch movies still? And then we wanted to know, well, do stars having political statements, does that affect your viewing patterns or not? And then how likely would AI produce better movies than what we have now? So
I'm really interested in the AI part because one thing we're paying close attention to, Mark, is how we're starting to see AI in ads. And I don't know how eager Americans are to accept that. I don't know, because there's a very strong effort by artists to stop AI from being a part of the offerings because it could completely wipe them out. So I don't know if Americans are eager to accept that yet. What have you found?
Well, I'll run through the questions. I think that's a valid concern because the whole point of advertising is to be super authentic as possible. So
Sure.
Open up somebody's, and AI is kind of super inauthentic in a way that also we worry about in politics. Like literally Kamala Harris was the AI of politicians, basically. So how often do you plan to, or how often do you go out to a theater to watch movies? This is top line, all Americans, 40% say rarely or never, 36% occasionally, and then once a month and 2 to 3 times a month is 18%. So that's not huge numbers. At least once a week is only 2%. So what it means is that 56% of adults say that they at least occasionally go out to movies. So we called them movie watchers. And it's actually, despite people saying that the zeitgeist is moving away from movies, we still had 68% of Zoomers say they're going out, they're movie watchers. They go out at least occasionally, more women than men by a few points. And from a party perspective, less Republicans. 43% of Republicans say rarely or never, but only 34% of Democrats. And 63% of Democrats are movie watchers compared to 53% of Republicans. Now, some of that could be explained by Republicans skew older and that this is an age signal. But it's weird. You know, almost 70% of America still says, yeah, we watch movies, obviously, of young Americans. And it's almost 60% of everybody. So I don't know if you would call this completely eschewing movies, but then at the same time, like rabid movie watchers is only 20% of the American population. I mean, we're looking back at the first Star Wars, and weren't there more ticket sales than there were American adults?
Yeah, what's amazing about what you're telling me is it sounds to me like only about a fifth of the population is actively engaged in finding out what's the next movie. I'll go see it. Yeah. You know, if somebody says once or twice a year, oh, you know, my nephew or niece wants to go see this little movie, I'll go with them. That's not the same as, you know, people who are actively interested in what's coming out and they got to go see it. You would call those people the catalyst, right, for their family. And so the catalyst crew, they take the other members of their family and their friends to go see these things. That seems to be about 20% based on what you're saying. That's not a good sign for theaters long term.
Well, so also there's this like Mario Brothers movie, Minecraft movie, like this exists. There's children at home, yes, is 66% movie watchers. Children at home, no, is 51% movie watchers. But children at home, yes, is still only 25% rabid movie watchers. So it's still it's something they do occasionally, I think is probably the right way to call it.
Now, what about the AI, Mark? What are we seeing on how Americans are interested in AI and movies and TV shows, streaming and commercials? What do we see?
So this is only asked of people who say they at least occasionally watch movies. So the movie watcher. How likely is it that computers using artificial intelligence could produce better movies than most of the movies Hollywood is making right now? Not a high level of confidence, only 12% very likely, but another 22% say somewhat. So that's 1/3. And then not at all likely, not very likely is a combined 57%. So this is like a pretty strong vote of confidence. Like, nah, we're not there yet. And we don't know if we'll be there eventually, but the younger people who ostensibly probably are heavier users of AI are least likely of anybody to say likely. It's only 29% of them. And it's millennials who are most likely, 44%. And there's really no party difference. And so this is just kind of, I don't think people are ready to vote on this one yet. People are like, I don't know, I haven't seen enough. And these people are, a lot of them are probably using AI. There's a really big penetration of the number of people who are using these chatbots and image generation and stuff like that. So I think that this isn't, in my opinion, endangering Hollywood yet. And it seems like America is just kind of waiting and seeing approach. Now, we're worried about AI for a host of other reasons. Like the under 40 voter is, we asked a question, if AI actually eradicates millions of jobs, how likely are you to support universal basic income? And the number's over 60%, including a really good chunk of conservatives under 40. So it's like one of these things where, I mean, it might be like, yeah.
Well, hang on, Mark. That's really fascinating to me because even the idea of universal basic income is something that I'm shocked that the average poll, you know, the average person taking the poll would even know what that is. That to me, now I may be wrong, I perceive that as being a term that was in the weeds just a year ago. So are people now getting that sort of that understanding? Are they paying close enough attention to AI that they're saying and rationally thinking through, okay, if AI takes millions of jobs, we want universal basic income or we want universal high income or however it's being phrased these days. Do you think people are actually contending with this at a high resolution level of thinking?
I'll have to look it up. I don't think we actually use the phrase universal basic income. I think it said something like a meaningful, you know, should you be provided a meaningful living wage by the government or something like that. But the trend though, and again, the words mean a lot, but the overall trend of the under 40 voter is that even if they say they're conservative, they actually poll like socialists. Even the under 40 Trump voter was split roughly 50-50 on whether they said they would vote for a democratic socialist. And the under 40 Trump voters overwhelmingly supported nationalizing major industries by like a 3 out of 4 ratio. And almost 60% of the under 40 Trump voters support excess wealth confiscation in order to do things like have this young person home buying program.
And this is what's so amazing, Mark, is, and I would not have known this if it's not for you. And we owe a debt of gratitude because we want to understand reality. And you're helping us understand reality. The young people, if I understand this correctly, as we're trying to figure out, like culturally, what are they interested in entertainment and what are they interested in the direction of the world? What you've expressed to me, and I believe this is true, your finding is that young people are not principally conservative, even if they're voting for Trump. They are looking for some sort of salvation lever when it comes to their financial situation, and they feel left out economically, and they're not tied to any sort of belief system other than give me and help me.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly right. And ideologies don't really matter to them, because you'd have a Trump voter voting for Mamdani. Mamdani's got a really high favorability rating, just like Trump did back in March with the under 40 voters. And even AI, they're actually kind of okay with AI, in that one of the questions we asked is that it's gotten harder to govern the country, and would you support giving an advanced AI control over our legislative process?
I love these questions.
55% of under 40 conservatives would support that. And what's wild is the liberals were like, no, that sounds like a really bad idea. Like, we shouldn't do that. But the conservatives are like, yeah, of course the system has failed, and we need Mecca Franco
time to bring in. We got to start playing Terminator in the schools again, folks. We got to get it back in the classrooms so they can see Skynet.
Well, we had a Skynet signal. I don't know if you saw it. So the very next question we asked is that, war is very violent, and would you support giving control of the world's militaries to an advanced AI in order to reduce the number of people killed in violent conflicts? And among the under 40 conservative, it was 49 to 41, I think. So by a plurality, under 40 conservatives actually support Skynet. It's kind of wild.
Wow. Well, bring on the overlords then, eh? All right. Well, this matters, Mark, because what we're trying to figure out is where things are going in entertainment, and that gives us a pretty darn good idea of what young people are interested in. If they're not necessarily principled, but they simply want more, and that it's not bad. We're not going to blame them. It's not wrong to be to wanting to rise in the social hierarchy. But the problem is if we flatten out the social hierarchy, right? So if we go to the socialism model or whatever, the problem is you don't actually rise up, and you only compare yourself psychologically to your neighbors. So if you and your neighbors, theoretically, we know this would never happen, but if the idea is that we all, get leveled out no matter what you contribute to society, and maybe AI takes away, what you would contribute anyway, then I kind of think we get into a chaos spot. And I don't know what it is that we're telling in terms of the hero's journey in our stories for young people. I don't know what it is that we need to be telling or what would capture their imaginations.
This is what I've been primarily focused on over the last couple months. And I think I can sort of square this for you. And looking at that one other question we didn't really talk about, and I won't go into it in great detail, but if a movie star expresses political opinions in public, does that make you more or less likely to see the movies they star in? 13% more, 27% say less. Most people say it doesn't matter. And especially younger voters, like only 23% of them say less likely, which kind of doesn't make sense, because younger people are on YouTube, under 40s, millennials, Zoomers. And I think that everybody here can agree that the zeitgeist on YouTube has become trashing people and making fun of ridiculous takes. And so how does that make sense, where people don't care about the politics and the polling? And it's like, yeah, of course we watch movies. Yeah, I don't care about the modern Star Wars. They got great special effects. Like, who cares? When what sells on YouTube is a 10-hour review about how the Phantom Menace was the worst movie ever made, right? And I think like the zeitgeist might be increasingly undermining clown world principles. And I think what we're seeing is a shift that we've talked about in the past, the fourth turning, where people are trying to find a different value set. And it's a lot less of like, it's deconstructing what happened in the past in a way that shows a new set of values. And I think these people's values are fairness and justice. And that's very different, because in the past, the values were things like, conservatism, or, the Constitution. And that's why you're seeing this political upheaval in a way that the Republican Party especially has no idea what to do with. Like, they do not understand how to talk to the young voters. And the reason this matters is because we're still governed by boomers. The Senate and the Congress are like 60% boomer, and it's only 14% Gen Z and millennials. And that's basically in the next 10 years almost going to flip. And so what does this country look like when you have a bunch of conservatives in there that are literally ready for Skynet? They don't care about the Constitution. They want everybody in jail. They hate the fact that everything's unfair. They are anti-corporatist, but they'll also consume corporate slop. They don't like, I just have no idea where it's going, but it's going to change, and it's going to change really fast.
Do you think this is cynicism aimed towards nihilism, or is it cynicism aimed for a desire for authenticity? Because those are two different paths that the cynicism could lead us to?
I think it's the latter. What's weird is that, I mean, these people hate inauthenticity and they are very cynical about it, but it's almost like a unifying thing. I've seen the number of influencers now on the YouTube that all just sound the same is absolutely wild. If you look at Shoe on Head and Asmongold reacting to like Nick Fuentes, these people are all over the ideological spectrum, and they all agree that no, like Trump should throw these people in jail. Why are we still talking about Ilhan Omar? She should have been shot out of a cannon. Like, how long are we going to go without Pam Bondi arresting people for Epstein? And these aren't things about, economic libertarianism. That's not what we're talking about anymore. We're talking about why aren't we attacking a system that everybody under 40 understands has failed, and everybody over 40 doesn't watch YouTube and doesn't understand what time it is. There's a really huge rift, and I've seen it. I went to the White House. The White House is not really got their pulse on the finger on the pulse of what's going on with the internet connected voter who is just totally wants something different than what Trump is giving them right now in a way that's been very, very, very hard to get across.
And do you think and I'll open it up to the panel in just a second, but do you think the new policy, and I don't know how much we're going to actuate this in reality, but the new idea, the new concept that we would block some of these giant corporations like BlackRock, Vanguard, et cetera, from purchasing residential homes, is that aimed in the right direction for these young people who are looking for any way possible to get more affordability and to rise in their economic status?
Maybe, I don't know. I hope we'll see. I don't want to be a black pillar, but Brett Baer helped steal Trump's, okay, we're on YouTube, but he still golfs with Brett Baer. And Mark Zuckerberg had the Zuckerbucks, and he brought Mark Zuckerberg to Mar-a-Lago and gave him a hug. And it's just, when I see things like that, I love it because it plays well. The Republicans need to start talking more like Bernie Sanders on the economy. I really think they do. They need to create a viable alternative that's not what Bernie Sanders is offering. And they're so far from that because the Republican Party it does still have all this big business influence. But then part of me just wonders if that isn't just a deal-making mechanism that will have some kind of concessions on the back end. It's hard to know. But ultimately, the feeling I got was that crashing the economy would be the housing market would be the number one thing for under 40 voters that would give them a path forward. That or inflating the hottest job market we've ever seen. And both of those things would be meaningfully enough detrimental to the current economic order, especially because of how tied in that is with the Republican Party. I just don't see that it's a feasible thing that's going to happen.
What's amazing to me is, the Trump administration comes in and the number one thing that seems to be blocking Republicans from success has to do with voter ID. And we see how far that's gone. Meanwhile, the Democrats take power in Virginia and immediately take every action that you would want to take to have complete control forever. And it's just such a strange thing to see the way that the two parties, act this out. And of course, that leads to desperation in the at least on the conservative side, from people who are looking for, can we win? We would like to keep winning, please. And so we'll see how that plays out, not only on the cable news channels, but at entertainment, movies, etc. Lauren, Ron, any questions for Mark before we wrap this particular topic up?
Oh, go ahead.
All right. Well, if that's the case, ladies and gentlemen, let's race on. We've got more on the way. The Hollyweirds don't understand how it is we do what we do, bringing you video after video every single day of the utmost highest excellence and quality. But folks, we do it because of you. We appreciate you. You are seen and heard here on the Pro Channel. Make your voices heard, folks, by doing one last thing before we say goodbye for a short time. Consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you know what? That notification bell, click it and stick it to the algorithms. Also, drop a comment down below and let us know your thoughts. And don't forget, folks, we've got even more content on the way. If you'd like to become a member, it's just the price of a soda per month, and you'll gain access to all kinds of exclusive content beyond what the public sees, including archival footage of the Pro Show that goes away after just a few days from its public release. Folks, we hope we get the honor of spending time with you again soon, and until then, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.